We've got our heel rough shaped and also our volute trimmed way down and rough shaped. They're all looking really good. Still have a lot of work to do bringing the final shape in on the neck, but that's okay. The heel is fit to the body, so the projection of the neck lines up really well with the bridge. So we're looking good there. I've got a very thin shim temporary glued on here. This will get shaved down to almost nothing. And that's just to help get the alignment of the neck to the bridge spot on. Now it's time to work on a fingerboard for this guitar. We are not reusing the original rosewood and inlay, mother pearl inlay. Actually, they were what they call it, mother toilet seat. We are using a piece of spalted tamarind, or just tamarind, which I guess is quite often spalted. It's going to look really good. It's cream and browns and blacks, and that kind of spider webby looking spalting look. So it's going to be interesting. Also, spalted materials use a lot of personal protection equipment, a respirator of some sort, something good to capture this fine particle stuff that's floating around. Also, if you have dust extraction, use that if you can. Otherwise, a good strong breeze blowing stuff into your neighbor's yard would be an option. Not a good option for your neighbors, but an option. Okay, let's start making some sawdust and continue. I gotta quit saying, I need to come up with another tagline other than the next project. Well, we just finished putting a 12-inch radius on this piece of spalted tamarind. This is a 12-inch radius. I used the 12-inch radius side arc pieces from the fingerboard radiusing fixture. Also used the glide style base. This is a non-bearing base. Palm router mounts to this, and this is the universal #1 version. I think it'll take maybe 6 different router base types, sizes, shapes, whatever. But what makes it a glide is the fact that it doesn't have bearings on it. I have used bearing bases for this type of process for years, and I thought that's the way it had to be until I kind of came up with this idea. I was like, why do I need bearings? I don't know, let's find out. So I routed a few fingerboards with this, shaped them, put the radius on, and I don't really see a reason to use bearings. This works just right. Now, will this ever wear out? Probably. If you are going to radius 1,000 or 5,000 fingerboards, these will probably wear down and you'll need to print a new base at some point along the way. But I doubt that I'll ever need to. I'm doing maybe 6 fingerboards a year, maybe. I don't know. I'll probably never wear it out. Who knows? Your mileage may vary. But let's continue the next project. We are trying to move things right along. Here I have a 1/2 inch thick MDF template that is the shape of what the fingerboard needs to be, taper from the nut to the heel without binding. So it's the width of the actual fingerboard without binding. Using a compression bit to trim away the fat going around the edges. Keep my fingers out of the way because that bit is mean. So it's looking pretty good. Fret slots are in, board is radiused, now it is trimmed to the proper taper. Yeah, it's looking pretty fancy. Going to do a little refine cleanup sanding of the top radius surface, and these are some of my more recent radius sanding blocks, I guess it is. I have a new interlocking piece that can go in between. If you have enough of them, you can string up as many of them as you have tabletop or benchtop space. So here I've basically hooked 3 of these 12-inch radius blocks together. I am just going to clean up the top radius of the fingerboard a little bit. It is still stuck to that 1/2-inch thick MDF neck taper template. And honestly, if I had another one of those sanding blocks taped in line, I'd have a little bit more room to work. I was being lazy. And honestly, you add more, it just takes up more sandpaper too. I had enough to get the job done, so it all worked out pretty good. I could have stuck my MDF template with the fingerboard on it to the bench and then ran the sanding block across the top. Either way, it'd work. Always testing things. And there I actually have a 12-inch aluminum extruded sanding beam that I could have used, but gotta test things out. So now we're moving along. We're sticking again that MDF template to the bench top. And we're going to soak this whole board with thin CA, cyanacrylate, super glue basically. Just deliberately putting it on, letting it soak right into the spalted tamarind lumber. And I'm going to do this 3 separate times. I put it on and I let it sit for, 2 or 3, 4 or 5 minutes. I don't even remember now. So it was a couple minutes. Well, it might have been more than a couple minutes. Then I go through the process again, resaturate it. I'm really trying to get that thin super glue to soak down deep into this wood grain, this spalted material. Tamarind, from what I understand, is a pretty hard wood normally, but when woods are spalted like this, they're actually a little softer. So we're petrifying it chemically. So that's going to work out pretty good. I am getting some super glue, some CA down in the fret slots, but it's not a problem. No binding on it yet, so it's easy enough to scrape it out or run a saw blade through it and cut it out. Here we're getting close. We're about halfway done. You can still see there are a few low spots, but the overall process is working really well. Now I'm going to go old school style application. Instead of just saturating it, I'm doing quick wipes. I have a little paper towel applicator, as we can see there. I'm taking one and cutting it into 6 pieces, putting on some protective gloves so I don't stick my fingers to everything, and just giving it a quick wipe in one direction. Let it sit for a minute or 2 in between coats. And I probably did, how many? 25 or more coats at this point before I called it a day. I was like, that's enough. And it doesn't take long. That's maybe an hour's worth of application time at the most. So you might think, wow, it's quicker to spray something. And yes, it is, but then you have how many hours or days drying time. And on this, I have minutes of drying time. So this process yields a fingerboard that could be ready for frets in just a couple of hours, but that's not what we're going to do here. Now we're moving on to adding some binding to the fingerboard. I am doing a double layer binding. I'm doing a very thin, I think it's a 20 thousandths black binding. I think it was a 60 thousandths white binding, which will be the outer binding. Trimming it to length rough trimming it to length. Adding a little acetone to help melt it, a little acetone to the end of the fingerboard, and stick it on there, and it melts it right to the fingerboard basically. I kind of bounce back and forth between using acetone to stick binding on or using CA or super glue. I don't really know which I like better. Super glue, you have the chance of sticking your fingers to things you don't want to. Acetone, it's not healthy for you. It is a little bit slower process potentially also. So there are pros and cons, I think, to both. I have used CA or super glue a lot for long straight pieces like this and had really good luck. I have run across an issue though where I was trying to use a medium viscosity super glue and things weren't sticking as well. The thin super glue seemed to work better for me, but that could just be a fluke. Maybe it was the wood that I was trying to bond to or something else. I don't know. More testing required. But, try to take note of all those weird things when they happen and
try to figure out why strange things happen as we go. Sometimes it's not always obvious. Sometimes it's the operator. Well, probably most of the time it's the operator. Oh, sticky tape. A lot of sticky tape. I wonder if that binding tape was originally invented for some other purpose, and then somebody who was working on a guitar way back in the day was like, hey, that super sticky tape is perfect for this. Yeah. Oh, here we go. We're using a card scraper or cabinet scraper, whichever you prefer, to shave away, give the binding a shave it away, the excess binding that's sticking up above the fingerboard. Looking good. Trying to keep things straight and not forget to do important steps, and this is actually one of them. We're going to make a quick notch in the heel end of the fingerboard for the truss wheel adjustment area. So I thought about making a little bitty template for this, and I could have done that pretty quick, but I decided not to do that because I don't know why. So I grabbed a 1/4-inch Forstner bit and my cordless drill and drilled the two kind of radius corners of the notch I'm going to make. Oh, I found something to put underneath it so I didn't just drill a hole in my tired looking bench top there. So use that 1/4-inch Forstner bit just to round the corners, and I'm going to work here with probably a 1/2-inch wide wood chisel, just cleaning out the middle. And it looks pretty good. Well, it doesn't look so good right there. Need to do a little bit of cleanup. Do a little bit of whittling. Clean it up on the backside, and you know what? We got a pretty good looking notch. Probably a little bit quicker than making a template for it, then breaking out the router in a bit, but both would work. So, little test fit. Yep, looking good. What is this? That's veneer. Why would I be cutting veneer? I think we'll discuss why I'm cutting veneer. But anyway, I'm cutting veneer using my veneer scissors to cut veneer. I'm going to do a couple layers of veneer using Titebond wood glue to glue everything together. Just going to clamp it up quick, and we will have a quick maple veneer cap on a maple neck. That just seems strange. Why, oh why, would I be doing this? Let's try to figure that out.
Well, we've got a lot going on and it's going pretty well. We have got our neck, 2-ply veneer actually of maple put on top of the neck, which seems kind of counterintuitive. Why would you do that? It's already a maple headstock and neck. Yes, it is. The reason I did this is so I could end up with just a little bit of a ledge right here where the veneer, the face of the headstock, is a little bit prouder than the face of where the fingerboard is going to glue on. So a lot of extra work there. Nobody's probably going to see it except me and you, and we count. Okay, so that's all done. I decided to try out an idea from a viewer who actually builds guitars. I think he's in England somewhere. I'll post his stuff here somewhere. But he took the radius arc pieces for shaping a fingerboard radius, and he turned one of the files I supplied into a flat top and said, hey, I did this, it works pretty good. So I was like, that's brilliant. So I then made my own flat top version. The 3D files are linked in with all the other radius arc pieces in that batch of files. So then I mounted this on my bench and used this and the router bits to route away this surface and get my nice little edge right here. Yes, there are other ways to do it, but this is all kind of testing. You learn things that you can use other times for other things. While I was at it, I decided to do more testing that was kind of unnecessary. The top of the neck was nice and flat, and I could have just left it alone and glued the fingerboard on. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this thing out and use it as a plane to do a final flat surfacing of this whole neck glue on profile. And I did, and it worked really well. Took a couple thousandths off, which creates a problem. The truss rod trench is already in here. So if I take a couple thousandths off of this surface, then my truss rod trench is shallow by a couple thousandths. So I was like, well, what do I do about the problem I just caused? Which I knew was coming, and I already had a plan. The truss rod routing template that I showed recently, chunk of MDF with a slit down the middle and a 3D printed base that you can make out of other things too. I decided to stick that right back on and chase the channel just a little bit deeper. Went well. One thing you got to pay attention is to how do you find the center of something that's already cut in, and there's a couple things we're going to take a look at. One, I have some little centering blocks that snap into the truss rod routing guide template, the MDF part, and that gave me an idea to create yet another version of that has a step down version, so it will actually fit right into an existing truss rod trench like this, so you can put the template on, push it right in case you have to go back and make something deeper or wider or whatever. You'll be able to get your template centered on an existing slit like that. So off topic a bit. Where are we at now? Okay, veneers on. These are trimmed back to shape. Fingerboard, spalted tamarind, which is pretty cool. A lot going on there. Stormy sea kind of thing. Got the taper of that cut, the radius done, fret slots cut in. I ended up putting a 2-ply binding on this, black, thin black, and then white on the outside, which the owner of this guitar says match the original cream binding that's on the guitar, and we will. The funny thing is, the original cream binding on the guitar, the body, the neck, the headstock, was actually white and black binding, which the factory then applied a coating over, which made it kind of a light cream binding. So that's what I have to match. Now we have to address where the headstock shape meets the neck shape. We have the neck taper going down. We have our headstock shape up here. There's this joint right about here that we have to trim away and make it perfect for where the nut's going to go. And then we can start cutting in our channel all the way around the headstock for the multiply binding that's going to go in there. Whoa, a lot to do today. Let's get after it as we continue the next project.
Man, I tell you, doing this binding work, that's like the hardest part of this whole process. Little bitty stuff, I can barely see it, I can barely hang on to it, it's so small, it wants to fly out of my hands. I should be wearing protective gloves, but I found out I could barely hang on to things with those gloves on. I was trying to glue my gloves in between the veneers, and oh boy. So we're just using our bare skinny fingers, gluing things together, using some more of that brown Stumac binding tape, which is really sticky stuff. It is good stuff. I'm not going to say it's not. It is expensive. Everything's expensive. This is an expensive hobby. Ugh, so much to do. And more binding. Oh boy, does it ever end? No.
A lot has happened already. We've got all of our binding on the headstock, which is good. It had to happen in a certain process. We had to get this done so we could do this stuff. So anyway, got that done. Still have all our rough shaping to finish. About time to put the truss rod into the neck, and I have it dropped in at the moment. Now, when I get ready to install the truss rod, I'm going to do a couple little things. I'm going to put a couple of little drops of an acrylic caulk in the truss rod trench and then squeeze it in. There's really almost no room for it, but I'm going to do it anyway. I will then use some rock hard water putty. I keep calling it rock hard wood putty, but it's actually called water putty. And I'm going to fill this little void up here that I'm going to use it to encase the barrel end of the truss rod down here. And what that's going to do is help lock everything in place so nothing's going to move. And then once that's all dry and cleaned up, then I'll be ready to install the fingerboard. Now when I install the fingerboard, I have to remember that the back of the fingerboard doesn't line up perfectly flush with the back of the neck heel, so to speak. I need just around 1 millimeter of ledge right along here, and that is so the neck pickup ring has a place to rest as it butts up against the back of the fingerboard. I have to remember to try and do that. That will also ensure that I have the proper nut width up here. So let's see if I can remember that between now and then as we continue the next project.
Well, we finally got all of that hard work done. Now we're going to do some fun, easy stuff. And here I'm putting just a couple little dollops of acrylic caulking, like you'd use at your house. Acrylic caulk down in the truss rod trench, and that's really just to take up any little slop that's in there. Try to avoid any future vibration that might happen as the seasons come and go, the wood shrinks and expands. Not necessary. You don't have to do it, but it's an option. And we used some tight bond glue. I had taped off the truss rod trench, or the truss rod itself. Put down some tight bond. We have some toothpick alignment pins put into the neck and drilled into the back of the fingerboard. Now wrapping everything together. This is my gigantic rubber band clamping system. Honestly, ever since I started using this as testing the idea, I really haven't gone back to using just standard clamps. This works out really well. And the neat thing about it is, if you want the neck to be in a back bow, you can crank your truss rod, strap the whole thing together, and the rubber band will clamp it to follow the truss rod if that's what you want. If you wanted to put a forward bow, some relief in the neck, you could do that. If you want the neck to be perfectly flat, just set your truss rod flat, make sure your glue surfaces are flat, strap it up, boom. It will allow all the pieces to move to where they're neutral. So basically, if you got everything set to neutral, that's where it's going to end up. Works really well. I had seen a gentleman who uses the same basic idea, but then he sticks the whole neck in a vacuum bag as well. I guess that would be great too. I don't have a vacuum bag this big, and I really don't think it's necessary, but this worked out all right. I don't know how many necks I've done this way now. Well, I've got 2 going right now, this one and another one, so life is good. I might need more rubber bands. Well, I think I'm getting to the end of what I can get done in this episode. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with me during this. I greatly appreciate it. We have gotten a lot done. We're moving toward the point where we can wrap up the neck pretty soon, I hope, and then do some final fitting to the body, which there's been a slight change with that, but that's okay. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up button, ring the bell, and leave comments. I love hearing from everybody all around the world. So as we wrap this up, I want to say thank you very much again. Please take care of yourself and those around you. And until next time, bye.